Hi everyone, Amy here, and I have a couple different ways to use your 3D embossing folders. So let's jump right in. I have some pattern paper here, so this is another fun way to use up some pattern paper from your stash. I have a water bottle here to kind of spritz down the panels that I'm going to emboss. And I have this Woods Rose 3D embossing folder from altenew. It's new to me, it's my first time using it, and I'm very excited to bust it out. So you'll see I am going to spritz this pattern paper and you will see immediately it curls. Now this is an extremely thin piece of pattern paper, so maybe don't use one quite this thin, and then you won't fumble quite as much as I did, but I did make it work. So I'm just going to close this embossing folder and run it through off screen through my die cutting machine. I have a Spellbinders Platinum 6, and here's a photo of the first finished card. I am going to make two different cards here for you in this video, but this one I used some gilding polish, and I'm going to show you how I made it. So I'm going to pull this out and kind of set it aside a little bit to dry. It is very saturated. Like I said, it won't be quite that bad if you use something a little bit thicker, and maybe just don't go as crazy with the water as I did. But here I have just a regular panel of 110-pound cardstock, and I'm going to run that through the embossing folder again. You can see I had some ink on my my glass mat there. Oopsie, so I'm going to wipe that off. But I just flipped it over so that the clean side showed the impression that I wanted. So I'm just going to run this again off screen, and you'll see on this crisp white paper, it just looks absolutely gorgeous. And that's what just blows me away time and time again with these embossing folders, is just the wow factor with such minimal effort. So here I have two panels here. I'm going to turn them into cards in different ways, both kind of encouragement, and one will be a sympathy card. Now these are little blending foams that I have designated to the different colors of gilding polish that I have, and I'm just showing you here they're pretty crunchy. I don't clean them off. You absolutely can, and you can also clean the foam that comes with it. But I just kind of let it get crunchy because once I introduce it to the wet medium again, it kind of softens back up. But I do use this, press and seal to kind of keep it from drying out. So I would definitely use something like that. Press and seal is something nice to have in your craft room. You can use it on all of your glitter gels or polishes like this, just to kind of keep them from drying up within the container. So here I'm just very lightly brushing it. This one is a little tricky just because the design is kind of spaced out and I don't want to go too crazy, but I'm just very light-handed and just brushing just on the top of the most raised portions. And you will see I do make a little bit of a mess of it, so you'll see there's lots of opportunity for sequin moments here on this panel, but it is a lot easier when you use a design that has a lot more covering the surface. Then you don't really notice if you kind of go down into the more recessed areas. But overall, it still did the trick, and it gives it this nice, beautiful purple metallic shimmer. And this gilding polish really dries super quickly and it doesn't rub off. So I do have other videos where I've used these polishes. I will link them in the video description box below if you want to check those out, but they are a really fun item to have in your crafty stash. So I will link them below with all the other products that I used. So just expand the video description box and scroll down for those details. Now here I'm shopping my sentiment book. This is one of two binders that I have. I have one for my critters that are stamped and colored and cut out. And then these are die cuts. So this is how I'm able to batch a bunch of cards at once. So I just kind of go through and figure out what I want to use. Kind of looking at these glittery purple hugs. I know I want to make it an encouragement sort of card here. So I'm just kind of playing through my options here and picking out what I want to use, and those are baseball card pockets. I do have some with a little lip that folds over and some without. These do not have the lip, but as you can see I don't have them jam-packed too full, and then that helps them not to spill all over the place. But I do have the other variation with the little lip as well. Now here's the second card that I'm going to make. It came together even more quickly, and this is a great idea for a sympathy card. I have this gorgeous sympathy stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. It's got all sorts of shapes and sizes and nice, really heartfelt sentiments for sympathy and thinking of you sort of cards. So I'm just picking out one that kind of fits in that lower right space. This is a composition that you may see that I kind of gravitate towards. I really like having the focal point or the sentiment in the lower right. And this with Deepest Sympathy just nestles perfectly in that space. So I'm just loading it up in my mini Misty here, and that will allow you to stamp it multiple times if you need to. And then I decided to just pick out Distress Oxide in Weathered Wood, because I wanted it to be pretty subtle. And if you're familiar with oxides, they stamp beautifully because they are a hybrid ink. So they're partially pigment, partially dye. So you can use them for ink blending and watercoloring and stamping, and they just are a great all-around stamp pad to have, or ink pad to have. So I'm just pressing that down, and that pretty much worked in just one go with the Misty there. But I'm just going to attach this panel directly to a card base. I did trim it down a little bit, so there is a tiny little white border. But again, this is more 110-pound Neenah Classic Crest Solar White in an A2 size card base. And I'm just going to attach this directly down onto the card base. So it does have some dimension, obviously, from the design, from the embossing, but it really doesn't have a lot of bulk, so it would be easy to ship. Shouldn't cost you any extra postage. And then I do add a little bit of blingage to it just to give it a little something extra. I have these iridescent white sequins, so it's kind of going along with this monochromatic look, and I'm going in odd numbers. I have 3 on the top and 2 on the lower right. And I'm just using some Barely Art liquid glue in my jewel picker here just to kind of lay down a little smattering of these sequins, just to give it a little something extra to this very simple design. But with the beauty and detail of these embossing folders, it really does not take much at all to just create such a gorgeous, stunning card with very little effort. And I know a lot of people tend to struggle with sympathy cards, so these are a good option to kind of just batch one day when you don't need it, and then you have it on hand when you do, which is nice to have because, nobody wants to worry about the extra pressure if they're, mourning the loss of a loved one. So here's the first card again. You can see the nice shimmer from the metallic gilding polish. Adds a nice little feature, and then, like I said, an opportunity to use up some of my pattern paper because I have way too much of that stuff. And then here is just the clean and simple white embossed Sympathy card. So I hope you enjoyed these 2 different ways to use your 3D embossing folders. I hope you found some inspiration. Like I said, I will link some other videos for inspiration in the video description box below, and there's some other videos to check out here as well. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.